What is that number one task that you have allocated yourself this week that you must complete for your startup?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot at stake. I think
Hmm.
one is all of this is very new to me. Building a startup, and at the same time, the vision of what we are building within the startup. So that's a I would say a killer combination for somebody like me who wants to learn. But at the same time, a lot of what I'm doing at the moment is also really discovering how do we do this the right way. So one of the discoveries we are thinking about this week is what should our brand identity look like? What should
Interesting.
the persona of the brand look like? Because this isn't like any other brand exercise people are building. This is not a SaaS product. So in a way, we had to talk to many people, understand what is being done today versus what needs to be done tomorrow. So this entire week has gone on a lot of research, a lot of interviews with people who have done this, and trying to put all of that together to see if we can come up with our own identity of the brand as well. So that's probably the top of my mind this week.
Interesting, interesting. And when you do answer this, I'm very curious. Feel free to intertwine what this startup is all about. What have you what have you decided upon so far based upon the feedback? Is there anything that's sort of concrete that you're thinking, you know what, I've hit the nail on the head? Or are you thinking to yourself, hmm, I need a bit more time?
I think there's always a thought process on both hitting the nail and then quickly realizing that we need to think more. I don't think it's yep, we've got a wonderful idea. I think it's always been the case ever since I've closely watched people build anything
Hmm.
interesting. They are never really, there's no start and there is no end. It's always some ideas from your childhood coming alive and then evolving as we speak. So a lot of what we've been thinking about, and I'll give a quick overview on what we are doing. Although this is more a podcast, I don't want it to make it sound like a pitch. So I'm going to
Oh,
try to.
you can do whatever you want. You want to go pitch? You want to sell me something?
I have like a
You
PPT here, right
you
here.
you. Oh no, I don't want to see a PPT.
No. I think one of the things we wanting to build is to stay away from it being sounding like a startup, because this is unlike anything else. At least personally, I feel like we should be doing at the moment. A quick, story behind why
Yeah.
we are building this is I grew up in a tier 2 city in India, and India as you have seen, Chennai and all the other places in India, tier 2 cities usually are underdeveloped from a world perspective, but overdeveloped from a nature perspective. So growing up, I have
Interesting.
always been closer to nature. I've always felt the need of being outside and getting cut by thorns, and staying away from a pathway because there are rumored to be snakes and all of that. And as I moved out of college and joined cosmopolitan cities, nature became once a while in the balcony, terrace garden, or maybe a plant which is written to die, because I've never seen house plants live for a long time inside. It's not supposed to be. There is no house plant. You can't tie a
It's
plant
it's
in,
it's
right? So
unnatural.
it's unnatural, but we have lots of it in our house. But we have our own ways of dealing with nature. But while I moved a lot away from it, my kids in the newer generation have completely moved out of it. They're afraid, they don't understand. And it's being taught also in schools and colleges in many different ways, which make it sound like it's one ecocentric system. It's very human centered, or it's very big species centered. You will know a lot more about a tiger reserve than you would know about the ants or anything else. So, in my pursuit of trying to do something which is both giving back to the community, but at the same time, something different, because in the last 19 years of my IT slash SaaS industry, I think I've seen a lot of people come up with good problem statements and solve for it. I've had exceptional visionaries who I've had the privilege of working with, but not a lot of people take interest in solving for something like this. It's a very small community I've seen, and it's also inaccessible. I feel like understanding conservation, understanding biodiversity is very scientific rather than very practical, very real. So all of this put together, I found a bunch of passionate people who were also asking the same questions on how do we make biodiversity conservation, uh, making people fall in love with nature a norm rather than it just being on Instagram or on a vacation. What else could you do to sort of drive it? So, in a sense, all of this put together, we formed Mycelium Ecology, where our goal is to build online and offline platforms for anybody to get inspired by nature and all aspects of nature, including the impact humans make, including the impacts tiny ants through any other large animal and species, flora and fauna could make. So I'm now brushing up on my biology 101, understanding what a leaf is and all of that. But it's quite interesting. And I think we are building for the future. I've clearly steered away from SaaS. So going back to your question on what is the brand we want to build. So as you can see, it has a lot of evolution to it. And our belief is that this is not a product company where a product manager has built it. In a sense, somebody has already built it. We are only managing it. So a lot of our brand will revolve around observation and the beauty of observation, because that's all we can do. We are not here to say that this tree has to be here, although a lot of people do it. Forest takes care of itself. I don't think we really need to do anything.
We
So
just get
I
in the
think
way.
we just get in the way, perfectly put. So yeah, a lot of the brand and the tonality there is about simplification, observation, very hands-on visual representation of what we could be thinking about. So as you can, we've been brainstorming ideas on fluidity, the fluidicity of the whole thing. What sort of logos do we get? Mycelium itself, mushrooms itself has a story to say. You could tap into it. So quite interesting conversations. I'm getting a first-time view into the creative side of it. I've never really done this before.
How do you feel? Feels good.
Feels like I'm in school. I'm sort of like a sponge, similar to what you're doing in your podcasts. I'm sort of observing all the stories and then writing, going back to Wikipedia and sort of what was this and all. But quite interesting, and I think I never really saw myself doing it. Now that I'm doing it, it's fascinating. I think there's a lot to learn and learn it the right way. This is not the biological name of a plant, which is what I feared when I was growing up, is I wouldn't understand a complex terminology of something. Versus a lot of what I'm learning now is simplification of why photosynthesis happens. It's so beautiful when you think about it the right way. And I wish I could go back to school to do it all over again. Maybe
Hey,
that would have been.
you have gone back to school in
There
a
you
way.
go. Yes, yes.